This is Pete Hines from Bethesda, and we're in the booth talking about Fallout.
So when it comes to virtual reality, what is that opening up for Fallout 4?
Well, Fallout 4 and the games that Bethesda Game Studios makes are known for being these immersive worlds where you can go wherever you want and do whatever you want and kind of lose yourself. And VR is another step down the path to creating this incredibly immersive experience. And the demo we have today is a sampling of that, where you're able to, put on this headset and you are in Fallout, and you look down and Dogmeat's next to you. You want to look at your Pip-Boy, you don't press a button, you literally just raise your arm up in front of your face as if it had the Pip-Boy on it, because it does, and there's your Pip-Boy, and you do this and there's your gun. It's just an amazingly immersive experience, and we can't wait to get it out to folks next year. The rest of this year and into next year, we're going to spend on refining that, improving that, and making it feel as smooth and as fluid as possible.
What's the development process like in taking a non-VR game and bringing it into that world?
It's so many things that you take for granted when you play or create a game for a controller that's got two thumbsticks and buttons, or a keyboard and a mouse, and then you take all of that away. So walking. Seems like the simplest thing possible in a video game. You could go up to any developer and say, hey, how does a character walk in your game? And you would just say, yeah, you just push forward with the thumbstick. But when you take away that controller and you create this virtual world, you've got to figure out different ways to make that work that makes sense to the player. Right now, we in the demo that we have here, you do a little teleporting thing. So you use the left controller to kind of aim where you want to go and jump to different spots. But that's one of the things we want to spend time on this year, is figuring out how do you move through the world? How do you move through the world in a way that the player understands and enjoys and can make sense of, and not making it too complicated, because you can't even look down at your hands. When you look down, you're looking down in the world. All of those things are sort of kind of changing what you're used to in a video game. Like, how do you shoot? How do you move? How do you switch things in your inventory? You lose the ability to simply look down at your hands or to work with the controller or keyboard and mouse that everyone is so familiar with.
Well, the other thing that's unique about this game is that so far a lot of the earlier VR titles have been shorter experiences. This is a massive game.
It is.
What is that challenge there in immersing people in VR for those extended period of time?
Well, the good news is that right now it all works. Like, if you were to go in that demo and just start heading in a direction, you could just keep going across the world just like you could if you loaded it up on your PC or your console. The challenge is, how fun is that? And how interactive is it? How do you manage the whole interactivity of every item in the world can be picked up and all of that stuff in a way that, again, makes sense to the player, is understandable and controllable. So it's not really the size of the world, it's more like how you're interacting with it and moving through it and dealing with it. But you walk into a house in our VR demo and you're sort of peeking around the corner, or you hear a noise and you quickly turn your head, and when you quickly turn your head, you're actually seeing whatever's behind you. It's really cool, and it's a very impactful, emotional experience.
What role does sound play in VR?
It's hugely important. For however much you think sound matters in a controller game, it matters that much more in a VR thing, because you were able to quickly turn your head in the direction that you hear the sound and instantly have that come to life in your game experience, as opposed to turning or spinning around with the thumbstick. It's literally wherever you're looking is where your character is looking. That makes sound that much more important, that where you look and where the sound came from have to match up exactly.
When it comes to Fallout Shelter, what's new when it comes to that element?
Sure. So we've been spending a lot of time on Fallout Shelter. We have a huge update coming out next month, and it's going to add a ton of new stuff. We've got a brand new combat system where you can now directly control your characters in combat as to who they're targeting. We have a new system for creating parties of 3 vault dwellers and sending them out on quests, and so you'll go out into the wasteland and actually visit and explore new locations in the wasteland. So you send them to various locations, and you'll actually explore in real time as they go through and engage in combat. We've got new enemies to play, so it really, it's the same game, but at the same time, it's a whole new game. It's a completely different, evolved experience from the one you know right now.